This video is in response to a message I received early this morning from someone who's experiencing all sorts of different unfavorable symptoms of the human condition experience. As a miracle worker, my job is simply to accept atonement for myself, to accept that I'm not separate from this person. Pardon me, which I've done. But I thought I would use the example offered through this particular message to make this video, because there's a lot to unpack in it. There's a lot to look at. And if I use the example of Jesus 2,000 years ago walking around like, you're healed, you're healed, you're healed, keeps walking, you're healed, pick up your bed and walk, you're healed. Everybody's healed, right? Hanging out with Jesus. But the matter of fact, if you like, of healing is that what you're actually healing is the way you see yourself and your thought system that embodies that in your own thinking, in your own mind. If your way of seeing and your way of therefore acting and interacting, etc., is off, you're going to experience that. And one of the ways you can experience it is through the discomfort and disease within the body and all this sort of stuff. So I'll just read this out. I tried to print it, but it's like 4 days since the cyclone. I have no power back yet, and very little phone reception, etc. But I just wrote down the bullet points of the message from my phone. And so this person has a skin condition which is threatening her appearance. She thinks that the whole situation she's finding herself in feels very emotional. She feels rage in a feminine sense. I do not know what that means, because if you've watched my masculine feminine video, you'll understand where I go with all that. She has been abused as a human, which is brilliant. That's welcome to human. Welcome to the human race. You know, you've got to have these experiences. She's very angry, but there's a realization she needs to forgive. Now, it's not a lot to go on. I mean, I'm just going to assume and put it out there that the idea that I need to forgive is to forgive whoever it is you feel has abused you. You're probably very angry at that person. I'm looking at the very angry note. Very angry at that person, or very angry at yourself for allowing that to occur to you. One or the other. It's the same thing, really. It feels emotional, obviously, because all thoughts have emotions. Right? There's no such thing as a neutral thought, and all your thoughts have effects. You will experience that emotionally. The skin condition, well, that's obviously just a manifestation. Right? That's how it's showing up. That tells you that there's something going on below the surface. Whoops, what am I hanging on to here? What is this grievance I've got, etc.? So I'm just going to completely diss the feminine sense part of it, right? Because it's not essential. Spirituality has no masculine and feminine. Spirit is without gender, right? When we talk about spiritual healing, we're not trying to solve our problems or our conundrums of healing through the mastery or the understanding of concepts that are embodied by masculine or feminine or perhaps comprehensible constructs of thought that have been invented by earthbound minds, or channeled to and through earthbound minds in a way where somehow learning to balance or focus on a particular aspect of whatever it is you think's going on in that regard is going to be helpful to you. It's not, because there's nothing more unstable than the notion of balance. It's a ridiculous concept, unless you're attempting to even out the cause and effect nature of your yin-yang relationship here on Earth, which is freaking pointless because it doesn't offer you anything other than the continual and ongoing drama, saga, effort at doing that, right? At some point, you've got to realize, when will I just fucking have peace? When will I be at peace? When will all this shit end, right? Surely you don't want to be doing this spiritual stuff forever. So, and it's a phase, it's a transitionary phase. So I'm just going to dump that off out of here, right? And I want to look at the idea of I've been abused as a human, right? All abuse is self-abuse. And I know that'll ruffle the feathers, but all abuse is self-abuse. Fundamentally, you made the decision to come here, and you find exactly what you expected before you came when you get here, right? Pain, suffering, and death. Abuse is amongst all of those things. So in a sense, you're doing this to yourself, but also within that very framework of, in that sense, you manifest your abuser, right? Because somewhere you chose to learn a lesson in the journey of your soul, and you signed up for a lesson that is best dished up to you, that is best presented to you through the framework of identifying the catalyst of abuse as something that makes you feel a certain way. Right? And you'll say to me, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that? And I would counter with, why do people invent nuclear weapons? You know, look what people do in this place. I mean, hello, like, are you really paying attention? It's like, do you think that everybody else on the planet is crazy and you're sane? It's like, no, this is God's nut house in a sense. So I've been abused as a human. Well, according to the contract that I have in my soul journey, or the arrangement that I have in my soul journey, I have manifested an abuser so that I can feel like a victim. It's a very common malady. It's a very common conundrum people find themselves in. I'm the victim and you're the abuser or the perpetrator of my victimhood. Yet, in matter of fact, no one is ever a victim. Doesn't matter how harsh and how cruel and how deathly and torturous and horrific the abuse is. And the deeper and more gory, let's say, or the worse, and this is individually perceived, of course, because suffering is relative, but the worse it gets is a very good indicator that you have not been paying attention and have been trying to run your own show, and as would seem apparent here by the rage in a feminine sense, you've been trying to work it out on your own terms according to what's going on out there and what you're learning out there, which completely negates the true place of learning, which is in here. And in here, when you combine the heart and the mind together and use them to forge that connection to your higher authority or higher reference through the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of wholeness, right? And you do that through prayer. Now, if I go to the bottom here, I need to forgive, the recognition that there's something I need to forgive. I'm very angry and I have rage, all of that. Well, the rage is the effect, right? And the anger is the effect. I'm angry because I'm angry at someone, I'm angry at myself. Angry at myself is probably a good start, Angry at someone out there is pointing the finger outwards. You need to really keep your finger stuck on the end of your nose with these things. But I need to forgive. Well, I'm forgiving myself for asking that person or that situation to become manifest in my life and if you look at it as the idea, well, I've asked my holy brother to come from eternity, let's say, into this dream with me, or I've manifested a body or an idea of somebody in a dream to try and prove to myself and look at my ideas of separation from source, which is what the human experience is, by the way. It's an experience of separation. As soon as you get here, you get a memory wipe and you wonder, where is God? What the hell is God about, right? Is there even a God? And you go through this awful period of struggle and suffering and because the education just isn't there for children yet. But you go through this horrendous period of trying to work it out until finally you get to A Course in Miracles, and there it is in black and white. But even with a workbook. But the need to forgive, I need to forgive myself, right? And it's not that there's really anything to forgive, right? But I'll get to that. But I'm forgiving myself for the idea that I think I'm separate from God. So essentially forgiving being releasing myself from false beliefs about myself. I'm realizing that I'm not a body, my brothers are not bodies, and all of this is just a dreaming in the mind of reality, in the mind of creation, if you like, and I'm really just a figure in a dream being dreamed by what it is that I am, but it has nothing to do with this body. And I know that's hard to sort of wrap your head around. I really like the movie The Matrix, where Neo is awoken from the dream and he finds himself in the real world, and it's quite a shock. And then they pop him back into the dream to do some undercover work and try and expose to everybody else who's still sleeping and still thinks that the dream is their reality, and to give them an alternative, give them a new choice, which is what I do. Having had an experience of awakening from this dream in its entirety and finding myself back in eternity, a formless realm, as what it is that I am in truth, and then agreeing, if you like, or participating in this effort called salvation by undertaking the part of a healer or a teacher of A Course in Miracles to represent the universal curriculum. But getting back to the need to forgive, that's the basic. The whole thing focuses around forgiveness. In truth, there's nothing to forgive because I'm whole and perfect as God created me. It's just a dream, but I'm forgiving myself that I think the dream is real so that I can, one, awaken from the dream state within the dream and recognize this is all illusory and look around. It's like, holy shit, what if this isn't real? What if I am somewhere else dreaming this? Right? And two, so that I can process my karma, if you like, or process my relationships in a way through forgiveness that liberates me from the emotional connection that I have through the cause and effect relationships I find myself in the world, and you become sort of in the world but not of it. You just sort of find yourself sort of sitting on the sidelines, not really feeling any kind of way emotionally about it. And if you've had a particularly horrible experience, you won't be concerned about that. You won't think that's boring at all. You'll just be glad to be out of the Colosseum and you don't have to fight any more gladiators, right? So you'll be in the crowd looking on, just going, yep, I remember doing all that, trying to be the best at whatever and trying to make it work and survive and get to the end of another day. All of that, so I'm forgiving myself for my fundamental belief that all beliefs and all relationships are premised on here, which is the idea of separation from God. Every relationship I find myself in, whether a committed personal relationship, a superficial relationship, a work, political, financial relationship, whatever, they all have the purpose and the opportunity to hold out to me a learning lesson, which, seen rightly, helps me to correct my perception of the relationship so that it begins to reflect a Christ-minded or Buddha-minded attitude towards giving and receiving in the world, where everything becomes a win-win, and I'm not concerned about the alternatives or the possibilities of what that might look like to achieve it, if that makes sense. I'm just going to learn to let it be a miracle. I'm learning to be miracle-minded about it in all my affairs. Because why would you try to work it out in a dream? If you really knew you were dreaming, you wouldn't. You would just accept the help of those who know that it is a dream and who have been given the vision and the sight with regards to how to begin to deprogram the mind from its attachments in the dream and be part of that process yourself. And that's why when I started this video, I said, there's not really much point in just accepting a straight up healing for this, because unless you're actually active in your own process of healing, you're just going to remanifest something else later on down the track. And so learning now then to participate in your own salvation, to participate in your own greater good, your own higher good, as frustrating as that might seem at first, because everybody just wants the quick fix. In the long term, it pays off. Not only do you get the healing through the physical and cellular level that you seem to be experiencing the cause and effect relationship of your trauma and your drama through, but the healing of the mind, of its attachment to this particular physical level, so that you don't have to come back in your next life and do this all again in another planet, another universe, another situation, through another body, another avatar. Horrendous, right? You may perhaps have to come back as, through the utility of another avatar into another version of physical life or non-formless life, but it will not be at this level, like this third dimensional. If you're lucky, you'll go to the fifth dimensional. And I don't like talking about it in terms of dimensions. I much more prefer to talk about it in relationship to the idea, the parable that my Father's house has many mansions. Right? I love that from Jesus. My Father's house has many mansions. And you think, how does a mansion fit in a house? How can your house have mansions in it? Right? And it's like dimensions, worlds within worlds, realms within realms, and all of these realities all going on at once here and now, and all being experienced by mind here and now throughout the multiverse, which is, I borrowed that from the Avengers, I think, throughout the multiverse of possibilities of whatever it's going to look like as an idea of the notion and belief in separation from God. But of course, as you begin to raise your vibration, you no longer need to participate so much at this base level. You start off finding yourself in the world but not of it. And then, as has recently happened to me in recent years, I've been notified that my new body is ready for my next incarnation, but it's a blue body. I'll be coming in at entry level at about, if I was to guess, looking at human children, and this is not a human body, by the way, looking at it's humanoid, but would be a little boy at about 8 years old, but no genitals, just a very male energy about it. That's the only way I can sort of describe it. But anyway, to get back to this, I mean, you have to put the whole thing in. Like, you can't just fix the problem. Right? The mind has to be opened. The mind has to be expanded. I mean, seen rightly, there's no problem to fix. It's just a matter of self-perception that needs to be fixed. And I remember the skin condition, threat to my appearance, blah, blah, blah. I remember that. I remember going through that when I was dealing with skin cancer. I'd given myself skin cancer with all my grievances and my judgments and my worries and my fears and my blame and my anxiety and all of this sort of stuff. And it just stockpiles up. The next thing you know, you got cancer or something. It's like, oh, fuck. How did I get from being a happy-go-lucky young fella to, like late 20s, early 30s, with this horrendous rash and this awful subdermal itch and this kind of condition that nothing can heal except for chemotherapy, which I refused in favor of the miracle. It feels emotional. Of course it feels emotional, right? And that's what it is that you're going to use for your prayer. I want you to feel the emotions, right? And this is something that you learn to do as you become more and more adept at applying these sorts of principles to your own situations, rather than reaching out to like me or a book or somebody else or whatever for help. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you do that until you feel like you've got a sort of a grip on it, and then you might take a leap of faith and, reach out on your own behalf through prayer for an idea of healing the mind that believes it's separate from God. But one of the things that you will learn and come to learn about yourself, and if you think this doesn't relate to you, you are completely mistaken, is that you are a liar. Your prayers are all generally going to be superficial. It's not until there's a concrete block on your foot that you cannot lift, or that it's not until that you are stuck between a rock and a hard place that you are going to even begin to resemble some form of honesty in prayer. Most people in the initial stages of learning prayer and building that relationship with the divine, prayer tends to be this sort of bargaining, this entreaty for a better condition. If I do this, Lord, will you help me out with that, Which is, I mean, it's funny because I relate to that as well. I used to, I'll stop smoking, God, if you help me, blah, blah, blah. And I've been there, I've done that, I know what it's like. And of course, now I know better, having gone through this whole gamut, this whole spectrum of healing on all these different levels, if you like, and all these different understandings, and arrived at the point where my only prayer is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Whatever goes on, thank you. Because the only purpose that the Holy Spirit sees in anything is healing. Therefore, that is the only purpose there is in anything. The human mind, the God mind, considering itself to be human mind, corrupted into this, what we call an ego framework or a conscious framework, needs to be retrained. And the way that retraining occurs is through miraculous moments of divine recognition, or recognition of support through divine auspices, which are affected through the action of prayer, right? Prayer is literally the means of communication with the divine. And as you ask simply for a miracle, Father, I want a miracle, without defining it, God knows what you want before you ask. Not because God knows you've got a rash or some sort of disfigurement going on or whatever in your avatar, but because God knows that his son sleeps and must be awakened. And the response to that, having already been given, manifests, filters down through even the body and but the prayer opens the mind. The prayer opens the mind to receiving, and through the receiving and the witnessing to that receiving, therein becoming the witness to the miracle, becomes the herald and the mouthpiece of truth. I prayed, I got a result, therefore God must be real, right? Ego doesn't like to hear that. The ego's like, oh, it was just a fluke. There is probably no God, But then, of course, as you learn to become miracle-minded, you pray again and again and again as you go along in your journey, and things start to build up, and that witnessing builds up, and you're like, holy shit, I am supported by a higher power, until the point comes when you just want to know what that higher power is, and you want the direct experience. You want connection. You want face-to-face with the big guy. When I say the big guy, I mean self-understanding. So it's important that you understand the nature of your own denial and the proceedings that allow the flow of divinity, which is already within you, regardless of how you feel about that. It is there, I guarantee you. Your wholeness and your perfection is within you, to begin again to function as they do in eternity, which is creatively rather than miscreatively. Right, so I can tell you that I have accepted atonement for you for this list of conditions and this situation, because I am aware this is just my dream, and you're a figure in my dream, giving me an opportunity to learn to be more miracle-minded, and to learn to recognize that I'm not separate from anyone or anything. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you for playing that part for me. Please forgive me for asking you somewhere beyond time and space before this all began for playing that part for me. And in that is my blameworthiness, as the Sufis say, and the broadening of my shoulders to take the blameworthiness of all mankind upon myself, not in an aspect of guilt, but in an aspect of forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. Everyone who comes here doesn't know what they're doing. But the only way out for each person is atonement. The only way out is salvation, to accept the singular nature of the cause and effect relationship as being one's own and processing it that way, so that somebody else's troubles is not someone else's troubles, it's my troubles. It's my ideas being presented back to me again, where before I might have suggested, why don't you go and see a doctor and get something for that rash? Now I'm simply accepting that this is me. I'm not separate from this being, from this person, however it is that it's showing up. Right? And you deal with it how it shows up. You don't have to get it all spiritual and get everything correct and whatever. It's like Jesus has got your back, Holy Spirit got your back. Just be willing, just a little bit of willingness. I'm willing to accept atonement for this, and I am willing to accept atonement for this. And thank you for that. It makes me feel very happy. And I would like you to accept it from me that the miracle has been offered, and that somewhere in your mind you have said yes to receiving it without judging it or allowing that transition to get caught up in the arbitrary nature of trying to figure it out. Just accept that it has happened, and don't be concerned about the ongoing effects. Everything here in time and space operates in a density of light. We call it slow time, right? In eternity, everything is instantaneous. Like the whole thing happened was, let's say separation happened and didn't happen at the same time. The Big Bang cancelled itself out the moment that it, science will even tell you that matter and antimatter should have cancelled themselves out. But because the experience of the expression of belief, let's say, or the potential of the belief of the notion of being separate from oneself, separate from all things, is an unknown quantity existing as potential, right? It looks like an unraveling or an unfolding of that potential through individual strands of examination, which we call human lives, human living, human experiences. But it's all the same thing. It's all one thing. I think I'm separate. The answer is that I'm not separate. And then we learn to laugh at ourselves. Finally, we go through this horrendous period. It's awful. If I could do it for you, I would, but I can't. You have to learn this yourself, which is why I suggest Course in Miracles, and do those lessons and read the book and overlearn it till you've learned it, But it's why we go through this awful period of questioning reality, coming to understand reality is not what we thought it was, that it's just an illusion, and then processing the residue of our adamant belief that this was reality through forgiveness and atoning to a higher principle, bringing us into a greater awareness and greater alignment with the notion that this is not only an illusion or a dream, but that we are actually awakening from it. Right? Now, the whole thing's paradoxical. You can't awaken from what never occurred, but yet we deal with it as if it has occurred, because it's foolhardy to try and deny that you're sitting here listening to a video that I'm making, etc. But if you want to look at it as the idea, we're raising the vibration in a dream, if you've ever had a dream at night that was kind of a bad dream, and then all of a sudden something happened and the dream became good again, you get the idea, right? It's like it's a happy dream, and you leave the world or you disappear. Like that. In my mind, it just flashed out for a second. Oh, itchy crown now. Like it's an instant in and out of reality all the time, right? But forgot where I was saying now. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. But you learn to not take things so seriously. You learn to laugh at yourself, and you learn to do a bit of these ones. Oh God, I'm doing it to myself again. And you become much more vigilant, not only for your sense of inner peace, but for what the hell you're doing in your own mind in regards to the responses and the relationship you have with the cause and effect of your human experience out here. It's a very liberating practice eventually. But at first, there seems to be this rite of passage that can go on for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years if you're not really stringent with it and not really devoted to it. But those who live it and breathe it and put it into practice tend to get through it within 10 years, some 6 years. For me, having had an experience first, which I think was a blessing really, because I was suicidal, I guess, but having had a revelatory experience first, it gave me a much stronger background through which to process the transitional aspects of my healing, if you want to call it that, healing from false beliefs about myself. I didn't want to come back here. I didn't want to be back in the dream when I found myself as spirit, as that I am, one with all things. It's like I realized that you and I are that as well. And even talking about it now as you and I seems kind of silly and weird, but it's more natural to me now because the scales have tipped through healing that I am you, you are me, we are one. But that process, that's been a fairly slowly evolving process as I've been going along with it all these years. And but you've got to start somewhere. And there's no better place to start than with rage and very angry and it feels emotional. I've manifested a skin condition. To me, awesome. That's great. Let's start there. That's fantastic. Let's look at forgiveness right where it's needed, right where all of that is. Let's get in touch with that emotionality and get down on your knees and pray. Father, I need a miracle. Please heal my mind that believes I'm separate from you. I'm willing to forgive myself for all my judgments and grievances that I've been projecting onto those who've been playing a part for me in this story of my human experience. And if you want something simple that will back that up in a very understandable way, there's a book written. It's a children's book. There's a book written by a guy called Neale Donald Walsch, Walshe, I think. Walsh. Neale Donald Walsch, anyway, called Little Soul and the Sun, S-U-N, Sun, I think. But not S-O-N. Anyway, you'll find it. Google it up. Little Soul and the Sun, Neale Donald Walsch. Where the little soul comes for a human experience, doesn't know what that is, and I used a travel agent example that I made up to try and illustrate the same thing. But the little soul comes for a human experience and asks all his friends to come along and play parts for him. It's like writing a script, writing a drama. But of course, because you're using the power of God mind creating to miscreate, you're giving the script all the power and authority of being able to seem like reality to you, because the will of God is what reality is. But in this world, it looks all backwards. In this world, it looks like ignorance. And you make your way through all that filthy swill. I wish I could remember who said that, this woman at some award kind of thing. African-American woman. I've got her name on the tip of my tongue. You make your way through all this filthy swill, and she's talking about her life in Hollywood or whatever it is, all these awards and all her peers, the filthy swill, to realize the only thing that matters is love. And It's true. The only thing that matters is love. Truth is true and nothing else matters. A human being believes that this matters and that matters. And what about my children? They matter. And it's like, no, love matters. When love is the only thing to you that matters in every relationship, in every aspect of your being, your life, your thought, your word, your deed, when love is the only thing you've got, nothing else will need to matter. Everything will just make perfect sense, I promise you. Serve at the altar of love and you will find yourself not serving at other altars to death, decay, suffering, pain, etc. And please let go of all this nonsense of masculine and feminine and astrology and divine this, divine that. The whole thing is divine. Everything is divine. It's one singular divine experience. And it's perfect. It represents perfectly what its purpose is. A place where all things come to die. That's what you wanted to experience when you came here. That's what you are experiencing. If you want something other than that now, in the journey of the soul, you have to contact the travel agent and arrange for alternative. And the travel agent is the Holy Spirit, right? I'd like an alternative itinerary, please. Just a minute. And then you begin to see it showing up, right? You begin to see it showing up in your life. Situations and people of a different caliber and a different nature will just automatically begin to show up in your life, and you'll begin to pay more attention to those. Right? And slowly, you'll come out of your sleep. Slowly, you'll realize that I'm awakening from a dream. I'm just waking up from a dream. This doesn't wake up. This doesn't exist now. The Dave making this video. Dave in eternity wakes up, but we don't call it, well, you can call it Dave if you want, but Christ in eternity, let's say, or Buddha mind in eternity, whatever, but the singular sense of self becomes restored in the mind, the part of the mind that has become corrupted or convinced that consciousness is real. It's not real, by the way. I hate to tell you that's why you can't work out what it is. The part of the mind that believes that that is actually real becomes healed of those false beliefs. And as higher mind awakens, this mind just vanishes, never having been in the first place. Right? And I like to look at the idea of the physical nature of life also as mind. It is mind. Everything is just mind. If God is mind, right? So let's do this one. God is a Hebrew word. It means I am. Okay. It is derived from the Greek word mind. Oh, actually, no, hang on. It is derived from, so spirit, hang on, let me start from spirit. Spirit is Latin, spiritus, right? Which is derived from the Greek psyche, which means to think and to remember, the mind, right? The psychology. And it goes back to, where are we? The Hebrew, which is Allah, which is God, translates to God. Anyway, it's hard to go backwards. It's easier to start with the Aramaic, Allah, and then go through the Persian, and then to the Greek, to the Latin, and to the English, etc. But Hebrew, and lost track of it a bit there, didn't I? You get the gist, though, I'm sure. So it has to be applied, all right? This isn't just a quick fix. You don't get a quick fix. Jesus isn't going to walk, well, if he does, let me know. But if Jesus isn't going to walk past, touch you on the third eye and go, you're healed, you're done, don't worry about it. But a lot of people are proclaiming that he will be returning soon, and apparently it's going to have to take World War III for that to occur, which is fucking ridiculous, really. Come on. Jesus is right here, right now. Christ is right here, right now. You are Christ. I am Christ. Christ is what the united relationship of the sonship or of the family of man is. We're all one. We're all Christ. If you don't like the word Christ, you can call it, whatever. Boom Shanker. We're all the great Boom Shanker. All right, that's about it. I think I've covered everything there. I need to forgive. Yes, I'm willing to forgive myself. I'm willing to accept forgiveness for myself. I'm willing to accept atonement for myself, at one from myself. I'm not separate from this person, from this victimizer, this tormentor, this abuser, etc. I'm not separate from any of it. I made it all up. I manifested this dream, and I'm the central figure in it, and I'm the dreamer of my dream. And if you look around and ask yourself, what's the common denominator in everything that happens to me? Put your finger on your nose, it's you. For me, it's me. It's just one nose, really, but it shows up in a multitude. But I'm accepting atonement for myself. It's the sole responsibility of the miracle worker. Right? Feel your emotions, use them, get into them, let them, don't be afraid of them. I mean, you made them up in the first place. Let them take you to the depths. Let them take you into that dark place. And when you get to the max potential of dark place that you have the willingness to go to, stay on your knees and ask for help. Father, help me. Heal my mind of all of this. There's no point offering a £2 prayer to a £10 problem. Get into it. My teacher Greta used to say, wear out the carpet with your knees. Stay on your knees. Draw your circle and stay in it till it's done. Feel it. Let all that emotionality come up. Let it all come up for release. It feels awful. It feels horrible. Comes up from the pit of your stomach, up through your chest. It sort of gets stuck here for a bit, and then I think I'm going to choke. It comes up there, and you start coughing and spluttering, and you might feel it in your crown, or you might just start laughing or vomiting or whatever. Like the whole thing, you'll know when it's done. Don't adjust to your pain. Don't adjust to it. Let it happen, right? Let it happen. Go through the whole process. Ask for help and let the help be given. You need to release all that energy, all that pent-up, contained energy that is now turning in on itself and revealing that turning in through the manifestation of skin conditions and whatever. Your body's not real, but it's a good indicator of your state of mind. I mean, in general, the body wears out. It wasn't designed to last forever, but why not have a happy body and a healthy body until, suitable for use for the process of your atonement, until you don't need it anymore and you can just lay it aside. I love you, and I'm not going to mention the name, but this person, I love you. Everything's going to be fine. Stay with the program, work the program till it works you. Right? Let go and let God, all of these little glib little euphemisms and attributions and things, but keep it simple, stupid. That was one that I always liked. You'll learn. Read your book, do your lessons. If you haven't got a copy of A Course in Miracles, Tyna is going to put down below or above, wherever they go these days, the contact details and the link so you can buy now the sparkly book as well as the white edition as a print on demand. So wherever you are, Annie's arranging now for it to be made available in 50 other countries in the world through print on demand, which is book A and book B. You've got to buy both books. Book A is the text and everything, and book B is the workbook and teacher's manual, etc. Personally, I love the sparkly book. Personally, I prefer the white edition. When I read it, it's like I'm reading or listening to or absorbing the actual living words of Jesus, as if he was speaking from the Mount of Olives. It's just, it does something to me. The sparkly book's fantastic as well, but don't worry about what the difference is. Just get a book. Just get a book and start. You'll find that if whichever one you get, you're meant to get. Even if you get one from the Foundation for Inner Peace, you go on their website and order one. There's a few different publications of it nowadays. People have seen fit to change things and whatever. And I would tend to stick to the sparkly, the white edition, or the Foundation for Inner Peace editions, as I have no personal experience and reading of the other There's a couple of other, there's the Circle of God, or what is it, Circle of COA, Circle of Atonement version, etc. Somebody even told me that because there's no copyright on this book, right, so anyone can just print it out however they want, change it, whatever they want, disseminate it. Right? Somebody even told me recently that there's people working on a gender-neutral version of the course. It's like, oh my God, do we really have to go down that path? But I guess we do, whatever it takes. But it's not about the symbols and things that are used. It's about doing the workbook and about being shown that the lessons in the workbook are true by their use, and getting the results that you're thinking regarding the use of them. So God be with you. Be at peace. Remember, peace is your goal. Your goal is inner peace. If any of this shit disturbs you, bring your mind back to peace. Let go and let God. Learn to be miracle-minded so that you can become revelation ready. You need to be revelation ready. Do the work. Love you.